Iran's foreign minister dismissed US President Donald Trump's claim that negotiations between Washington and Tehran could start as early as this week. Abbas Araghchi said Iran needs to ensure the US will not revert to more military attacks in the country before it'll re-engage in nuclear talks. But he said that the door to diplomacy would never be slammed shut. Israel launched airstrikes on Iran in June on the eve of a fresh round of talks between the US and Iran. Washington escalated the fighting when it bombed 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities before announcing a ceasefire. A funeral has been held for an Iranian nuclear scientist assassinated by Israel, as well as 15 other residents who were killed in the attack. Mohammad Reza Siddiqui Seber was killed in an Israeli strike on his residence north of Iran just hours before a ceasefire came into effect. 12 members of his family were also killed in the attack that destroyed 4 homes and damaged nearby buildings. Seber had survived an assassination attempt on the first day of Israel's strikes. His 17-year-old son was killed in that earlier attack. Akbar Darieni is a researcher for the Tehran-based Centre for Strategic Studies. He's joining us from the Iranian capital. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. Donald Trump has suggested that the US would be prepared to go back into Iran and carry out more attacks if it was felt that it was necessary. Given the fact that at the same time, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, seems to be indicating that it is not out with the bounds of possibility that Iran is willing to go back to the negotiating table, what kind of guarantees would Iran have to have in place in order for it to do that?
There is no guarantee in international relations. Even if the US gives guarantee that it's not going to bomb Iran again, who's going to buy it? Trump or US guarantees are worthless. The only guarantee in international relations is the cost and benefit analysis. The United States has damaged Iran's nuclear facilities, but it carried out a war of aggression, and now it cannot control the consequences of that war. They are talking about returning to negotiations. At the same time, simultaneously, they are threatening to bomb Iran. Iran is taking the actions it needs to take to beef up its air defense systems and to make more weapons, more lethal than before. Why there was a ceasefire? The ceasefire was achieved only because the extensive damage inflicted by Iranian missiles on Israel, on Haifa, Tel Aviv, Beersheba, and other places, forced Israel to beg for a ceasefire. That's the only guarantee. Otherwise, you don't expect warmonger Netanyahu. He's wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity and war crimes to stop the war unconditionally without achieving any of its goals. So Iran has kept the door of diplomacy open, but I don't see any point for negotiations with the United States, and any guarantees by the US is worthless.
So in the event that there was a possibility of moving talks forward to some degree, even just to get to the point of establishing that talks should take place, if Iran is not prepared to accept a guarantee, say, from the United States or from Israel, that those bombing attacks that have been threatened will not take place, what else would it need to see in place in order to get Iran to the negotiating table?
The Americans agree that their war of aggression failed. Americans return to a sense of wisdom that there is no solution other than respectful dialogue. And there was a dialogue in place. It was the Americans and the Israelis who killed that dialogue. The negotiations, if it's going to happen anytime in the long future, it will be totally different. Iran was negotiating while its nuclear facilities were under IAEA monitoring the way inspections. Very soon, Iran will resume uranium enrichment, but in facilities that are not going to be monitored by the IAEA. There will be no inspections, and it will be only in Iranian hands. The Americans cannot do anything beyond what they did, and the facilities will be out of their reach. So it's not difficult to see who was the loser and who was the winner in this conflict. There is a very specific scale to measure and judge who is the winner, who is the loser. Look at the goals declared by the warring sides. The Israelis had declared 4 goals: to disrupt and destroy Iran's command and control system by killing Iranian commanders, to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, to destroy Iran's missile program, and finally to bring about a regime change, and by importing mini drones into Iran and using them against residential areas to provoke dissatisfied Iranians to rise up against the ruling system, so that the ruling system is going to collapse from within. Did they achieve any of those 4 goals? No. They failed in all those goals. They expected that Iran would have no choice but to agree to an unconditional surrender. That has failed. And look at just Iran fired one single missile in the last days, and that single missile reached its target. What does it mean? It tells us that all the multi-layered air defense systems by the United States and Israel failed to intercept Iranian missiles. That is what brings change. That is the only guarantee for Iran.
I want to talk to you about the subject of regime change, because you brought it up there. That was one of the goals that Benjamin Netanyahu said he hoped would happen as a result of the attacks that Israel had been carrying out. What are Iran's concerns that the conflict that we've seen between Israel and Iran have also increased the chances of agents within Iran who are working for the Israeli security forces and the security forces of other governments being in the country now and over a period of time fomenting some sort of civil unrest with a view to eventually changing the regime in Iran?
The Israelis and the Americans don't know Iran. The reason is they forgot that Iran is not an artificial state. It's a natural state with 7,000 years of civilization and history. Their war of aggression against Iran did not bring a regime change. Their war of aggression rallied the Iranians around the national flag. It backfired. That makes Iran different from other countries. Years of investment to create a network within Iran, either by Iranians or by other nationals from other countries, to create fear and sabotage inside Iran, to a large extent has been foiled. In the past couple of weeks, Iran has been able to crack down and arrest those involved in smuggling mini drones and other equipment and uncovering Israeli networks. Years of investment is now, has been destroyed, actually. Still, there could be some other elements or other groups still not uncovered, but Iran succeeded to a large extent to uncover those networks, and now it is in a much stronger position. The Israelis had assumed that Iran will not be able to fire a single missile, so that Iran will be defenseless and they will be able to carry out the regime change. Don't forget that this war started on a lie, that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. That was wrong. But their claim for that was a secondary goal. The primary goal was regime change. It backfired badly. That's why.
Ali Akbar Darieni, please forgive me for interrupting. I do apologise. I'm very conscious of the time that we have here, but I'm very grateful to you for being with us on Al Jazeera. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.